In this tutorial, I'm going to step you through the process of setting up a spray diary record. We're currently in the main menu. If I click the Enter Data button and then the Spray Diary button, we're now in the Spray Diary screen. First of all, I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to create a spray diary record, and then I'll take you back through it slowly so that you understand the steps. You'll notice at the top, everything is defaulted. It's basically exactly the same information as I used in the previous record, which is what I'm going to be using again today. I'm going to be using 4 chemicals, putting in the tank. So magnesium sulfate is the first. The next one down is urea. The next one I'm going to put in is biopest. And all I'm doing here is hitting the first letter of the alphabet, and they're popping up. In this case with agrifos, it's the second chemical on the list of A's, so I just have to go down one step and click it. I then nominate the targeted pest and disease for each of these. The first 2 are fertilizers, so I'm just hitting the letter F. The next one is for leaf miner. The letter L will bring that up. And the last one is for root rot, and up it comes. Now I have to select the blocks. We're just spraying some citrus blocks. There they are there, and we're spraying them at 800 litres a hectare. And I apply it. All the calculations are done. I just need to make some comments in the instruction sheet for the operator. I've got them preset. I wanted to check the pressure gauges before he starts. I select those. This record is now done, and here's the instruction sheet. So as you can see, once you get used to the process, it is very simple and very quick. But what I'll do now is we'll take you through step by step. It'll take a bit longer this time, and you'll get to understand exactly what's involved in the process. This is the record I just created. We'll go to a blank record and start again, and again you will see that it defaults up the top to the previous record, which saves in most cases having to change anything in this area. But what we have in the activities box drop down is either a foliar spray option or herbicides. We're foliar spraying in this exercise. We're going to use the air mist again, but there's all our machines listed. The supervisor, of course, is the person making the decision on the job, and the operator is the one who's going to carry it out. You'll also notice there's a concentration box. It's always defaults to 1. And that's why we recommend that when you're setting your chemicals up, if you're going to use a default rate, you use the label rate or the dilute rate. And then when you want to concentrate up, you change the number in this box on the day that you're doing it, and it will change the numbers accordingly. The next thing we're going to do is look at selecting our chemicals. If I hit the drop-down box in the chemical list, all our chemicals are listed there. We were going to use magnesium sulfate as our first chemical. And if I hit the letter M, it will bring up magnesium sulfate because it's the first of the M's. In fact, it's the only M in my list. The next one I do was going to be urea. And if you have any requirement to put these chemicals into the tank in a particular order, if you put them in the correct order as we're doing them now, they will turn up on the instruction sheet in that same order, and the operator can be instructed to put them in the order that they are listed in the instruction sheet. The second chemical we're using is urea. I just hit the letter U. You'll notice that as I hit these chemicals and bring them into the screen, the default rates are going straight into the chemical rate, and the calculation is automatically being done for how much is required in a full tank. And the way it knows how much to calculate in the full tank is that if I double click in this air mist box, it knows that the size of the air mist tank is 1700 litres. The next chemical we're going to select is biopest. Again, if I just hit the letter B, it's all I need to do because that's the first in the list of B's. And the last chemical we're using is agrifos. In this case, it's not the first letter of the alphabet, it's the second in the A's. So they're now all listed. The next thing we do is the targeted pest and disease, which is a requirement of most of the quality assurance programs. The first 2 are fertilizers, which probably don't even need to be listed as targeted pests and diseases because it's so easy to do. We've put fertilizer in our list, and I can just select F, and then the fertilizers will come up. The way this screen is populated, if I double click in it, I can create my own list of targeted pests and diseases simply by typing straight into the box. The next chemical is biopest, and the reason we were using that is for leaf miner. If I hit the L's, up comes the leaf miner. And the last chemical, agrifos, was being used to target root rot. So there they all are. That side of the work has been done. We can now go on to select our blocks. I click the Select Blocks button up the top. And this database has a huge number of crops in it because we use it for demonstration purposes, but we have 4 citrus blocks. And the way I'm selecting these is simply by clicking on the first one and then dragging my mouse down. If I need to select other blocks, I can just hold the Control key down and just individually click on blocks and they will also be selected. But in this case, I'm taking them out. We only need to spray the 4 citrus blocks. The next thing I do is move across to this field and I enter the flow rate, the spray volume that I need to apply at, which in this case is 800 litres per hectare, and I click the Apply Spray to Blocks. It now runs the calculations in the background to work out what our total hectares is going to be for the job and the total number of tanks or vats that we're going to need to do the job. The next thing I need to do is I want to put some comments into the comments box. I can actually just simply type into this comments box, but often the comments that you're going to be using or the instructions that you want to put in this box are things that you're repeating quite often. So rather than having to type them out each time, if I click in this little book here, I can set up any number of comments that I need, and once they're there, all I have to do is click on the comment, select it, and it gets put into the comments box. And that's basically the record set up. The Preview Instruction Sheet button allows me to check the instructions, and I'll just check you through what the operator is handed. This instruction sheet identifies the operator, the machine that's to be used, the gear and RPM settings. Chemicals are listed, the rates that they're being applied at are listed, but most importantly the total quantity of each chemical to be put in a full tank is listed, and the quantity of chemical for the part tank at the end is also listed and calculated. It's probably worth commenting at this stage that we expect the projected total volume of water that GrowData calculates should be within 5% of your actual. So if it's out any more than 5%, you really need to go and have a good close look at why there is a variation. It'll probably be one of 2 things. Either one or more blocks have been incorrectly set up, so perhaps the wrong tree numbers or perhaps the wrong row spacings have been used and you've got the wrong hectares calculated, or it may be that your calibrations are wrong. But you do need to work your way through this process, especially early in the piece. When you're checking, it may even be worth getting your operator to make a note at the end of each block how many tanks or litres they've used on a per block basis. You'll also notice that in this column it says planned litres. If you have flow meters and it's easier to keep track by checking the litres, that's fine. If you don't have a flow meter, it may be easier just to count tanks, in which case I can change the settings so that the tanks are showing here rather than the litres. If I go back and close this down for a minute and I go into the settings screen, I can change from planned litres to planned vats. So when I pull up my instruction sheet now, you'll see that planned vats are listed. It's therefore important for the operator to keep a close eye on a block-by-block basis of what's being used and whether it matches up with what's predicted by GrowData. At the end of the job, all the operator needs to do is fill in the total vats that were actually used. It may be that you're collecting your weather information from observation, or it may be you've got a weather logger, but if you need to fill the details in here, the facility is there. The other important thing that they will do is enter the start time or the stop time. Many of the quality assurance regimes require you to enter the start time and stop time. If it's not required in your area, then perhaps you may just enter the total number of hours that the job took. It's then signed off, and I'll close this screen down. When that instruction sheet is handed back to the office, it's important that the manager checks to make sure that the total quantity of water that was projected to be used is within the bounds of reason. As I say, 5% is probably a reasonable variation. If it's not, investigations need to be carried out to find out why it didn't happen according to plan. If the variations are within the bounds of reason, then all that needs to be done is the weather details filled out on the record. So the wind was from the northeast, it was calm, the hours taken for the job was, let's say 6.5 hours, so 6 hours and 30 minutes. And that's basically all that needs to be done. When this completed button is clicked, the screen is greyed out, which means that people can't accidentally change things within the record, which can happen when people are scrolling through and they don't realise that they've inadvertently changed something. And when this completed button is clicked, the other thing that will happen is that all the chemicals that have been used are taken out of inventory. The chemicals that have used are also allocated back on a block by block basis, so we know exactly how much chemical has been used on each block and the cost of those chemicals allocated back to each block. Also, the hours that have taken for the job are converted and calculated for the machinery hours and the labour hours, and then they're amortised across those blocks on a per hectare basis as well. If for some reason you feel you need to change this record after it's been completed, all you need to do is click back on the plan button and everything is undone, so that any changes you need to make can be made, and then it is recompleted again and the process in the background will happen. That's basically a straightforward spray diary record. In other tutorials we will step you through handling variations that inevitably happen, so that when jobs are not done according to plan, you can very easily change the record without having to start again. So please follow through with the other tutorials so that you get to see how to change records to suit the actual events of the day.